Good evening. My name is Arjun Datta, and thanks for joining us on another edition of Master Strokes by IICA. Well, who do we have here? So I can see some of our students who've joined us. Hello Chitarth, hello Priyanka, Rohan, hi, Priyanka, hi. Chef Berry, so nice to see you. Chef Devanshu, wonderful to see you as well. Good to see you all. Hi Rahul. One of our alumni I can see here, Yashasvi, who's joined us. Nice to see you as well. Nice to see all of you. Mr. Sabarbal, thank you so much for joining us today. Wonderful. Well, I think that we've got a lovely evening ahead of us. First of all, namaste, good evening. I hope that you're all doing well, keeping safe. Welcome to Master Strokes by IICA. My name is Arjun Datta, and I'm your host for the evening. You know, India is a land of grand success stories, and our guest tonight is absolutely no exception to that. In fact, millions of budding chefs aspire to be like him, and honestly speaking, he's put India and Indian cuisine on the global map. Whilst most of us grew up having memories at the age of 6 playing in the park, he was busy cooking in his kitchen. So today, join us as we speak for the very first time on Instagram Live with India's first 2 Michelin Stars chef, all the way from San Francisco. He's a chef who started his journey in Kerala. He then went and joined Taj Hotels after doing his Culinary Institute of America, studying over there. Then he moved to London, then Maldives, and then all the way back to the United States. I had the pleasure and honor of speaking to him less than a week ago, and I can tell you, this entire journey has been absolutely overwhelming. We're thrilled to have with us Chef Srijith Gopinathan. Now, to tell you a little bit about Chef Srijith while we wait for him, Chef Srijith not only has grown up with a very, very simple and very, very compassionate background towards food, he actually never wanted to be a chef. In the little research that I was able to do, and of course with the grand amount of information that I found, he started out almost becoming an engineer. And what a loss that would have been for the culinary industry, I'm sure of that. But as fate would have it, he found his love for cooking and he pursued it. It's said that whilst he was so far away in the United States, in the corner of San Francisco, he was so far away from all those chefs in the Indian industry who were making a mark in London and Bangkok. He had his own flair. And with that said, he has undoubtedly made this one of the most remarkable journeys anyone could have dreamt of. So, today's conversation is going to be about food. It's going to be about his journey. And most of all, we're going to learn from the man himself, what does it take to become a Michelin star? So all you viewers out there, I would urge you, take out your notepads, take out everything that you ever wanted to know, ask yourselves all those questions. And now is the time that we come in face to face with the one and only Chef Srijith Gopinathan. You know, when we started Master Strokes by IICA, the intent was very simple. The intent was to create a platform where we could converse with leading industry specialists, with chefs, with anyone whom we felt most inspired by. And quite frankly, when this chef was asked, what inspires you? His answer was simple. He said, well, I get inspired by the simplest of things. I get inspired by a lollipop vendor down the road. He said, I get inspired by a pretzel vendor. And with those inspirations in place, you can't be surprised to actually see that he's gone out to become one of the most iconic chefs this industry's ever seen. I can see that he's joined us. Chef Srijith, thank you so much for joining us. We're looking forward to having you with us very, very soon. If you could ask us to patch you in, we would be more than happy to start this conversation. So, I think Chef is just about to join. Chef Sanjay, nice to see you. Nice to see you, Mrs. Handa. Hello, Shiv. I can see a lot of people have joined us from all over. In fact, I can see people from outside Delhi, all over India. All right, Chef Srijith has just written that he's trying to join in, no problem. Chef Saurabh, good to see you as well. I'm trying to understand this handle, Dua Nikit. Sorry if I mispronounced it. Good to see everyone. All right, there we have it. So we have Chef Srijith's request in. So folks, please join me to welcome all the way from San Francisco, Chef Srijith Gopinathan, who's now live with us. Chef Srijith, very good morning.
Morning. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
1 second. Let me just adjust the volume here.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Can you hear me well?
Crystal clear. Crystal clear. How are you?
I haven't had a haircut in a very long time. So trying to figure it out.
Well, I think we can both share that sentiment. It's been a long time. It certainly has. But good to see you. How's everyone at home? I hope everyone's keeping safe.
Doing well, Arjun. All well. Just that the routines are a little different these days. We just, the only mundane things what we do is brush our teeth and take shower, except that everything else is a little different, you know. so
Lovely.
yeah.
Lovely. Well, I was just telling our viewers that, I've been talking to you a little less than a week ago when I spoke to you. I was mesmerized with the journey that you've had. I think all of us are. And it's very, very inspiring. I want to thank you on behalf of everyone here for taking the time out. I know it's not easy, and thank you so much for gracing the occasion of joining us.
No, thank you for having me. I mean, I normally I keep myself a little busier than these days, so I would rather take advantage chatting with people whom I love to chat with than sitting at home and just having breakfast all the time.
Lovely. So let me ask you, when was the last time that you were in India? Has it been long?
Almost a year. Last time I was in Bombay, I couldn't even go to my hometown I came for a business reason. Yeah, I was there like probably last August or something, last summer. Yeah.
Wow. And let's talk about your hometown, since I know that's very close to you. In all my research, everywhere it was the same thing. You're so close to where you grew up, and all of us are, aren't we? So how long has it been since you've been back home?
Yeah, that's 1 year. I typically, normally when I come to India, I make a point to go to my hometown and spend some time there with parents there. Both are retired. So I spend time there a little bit, but it's been a while now.
Good. Well, I'm sure that they're very happy to have you back. And hopefully, once all of this over, we'll have you back again. And next time, the meeting will be probably more face-to-face.
That's a plan.
Lovely. So, Chef, while we're talking, I was just telling the audience that you had a remarkable journey, and you started at a very early age. In fact, I wanted to ask you, my first question was, tell us about your memories of cuisine in Kerala when you were growing up. I'm sure you might have seen a lot of change that's happened since then, but tell us about your first memories of growing up in Kerala. What was the food like there?
See, I was fortunate. I grew up in the middle of full on, what is it called? In between some bunch of paddy fields and coconut grove. So I was very fortunate. We had a lot of, we harvest pretty much everything. We used to harvest from our own little places there. So I grew up in a joint family, number one, because my grandmother was our executive chef there. She runs the house. So we used to have a lot of cooking used to happen at home, because especially bulk cooking. We used to have a lot of people work in the farm as well as in paddy field and all those things. So cooking's always a fun part. At that point, I never thought, or I never knew that I was going to be a chef, obviously. So I was fascinated by what was happening there, because it all came from I was a little kid, so it came from one side of the one side of our land, and then it ends up being on the plate. And this is all happening in our kitchen. It used to be an outside kitchen. I remember outside the home, a huge wood fire burn place. A bunch of people cook and a lot of people eat. Those were the fascinating part, not precisely one dish or one particular plate or nothing. The whole process, the whole idea of this whole food coming in, we never used to have machines to take out the paddy out of the little grain. So we used to have, I still remember, we still have animals walking on the top of these bunches of grain and just go round and round, and the paddy, and then we collect them, dry them. All those things are very fascinating.
My God. My God. And tell me something, what was the most distinct change that you've seen over the last few years? Are the scenes the same back home, or have they changed?
It is fortunately some of them, some of it is still there, but unfortunately we don't have any more animals walking on the grain. So that would have been fun. And unfortunately we don't have our milkman coming to milk our cow. Instead he comes to drop the milk off in packets. So that's not a fun thing to see. And unfortunately, our fish lady is not coming to our home. We get fish from supermarket. Unfortunately, vegetables are not all grown home. It's happening from, again, from supermarkets and nearby shops. So those changes are, to me, it is a bad direction to take. Back in US, it's going the other way around. They're trying to get milk in glass bottles at least, instead of getting in plastic bottles.
That's true, and I think I can certainly second to that notion, because I have some very dear friends in the US who are actually trying to promote farm to table, and I think that is going to catch up everywhere else. And it is there in India also, in a slightly smaller, but certainly a strong way. It's building up. All right, so Chef, tell me something now. I was telling all the viewers when we were waiting for you, I was telling them that whilst all of us were playing in the park when we were 6, you were busy cooking in the kitchen. You were helping your grandmother. I read somewhere that you would very nicely just run over to the fields, get your spices, come back home. You hadn't seen powdered spices. You hadn't seen powdered spices. You were used to grinding your own spices. So tell us about your first cooking experience. What was that like?
I just, since you brought that up, the powdered spice, I never thought, I thought growing up it was, I mean, not growing up, afterwards when I started seeing powdered spices, I actually thought that my grandmother is so frugal. She doesn't want to buy it. Why would she damn it grind at home? It's stupid to do it. Then as I grew up, I realized, oh my God, this is actually so stupid of me. And she was doing it right.
My God.
It's so dumb of me to think that way. Of course, it was ignorance. What was the question you asked? Sorry, I just lost the question.
All right. So my question was, tell us about your first cooking experience before you became a chef. Before you became a professional chef, what was the first memory that you have about cooking?
Yeah, I don't think I have any major cooking experience. It's basically pitching myself into this game and throwing myself into the big kitchen at home with grandmother and doing silly things like peeling a potato or jumping into and watching fish simmering in the pot in the little terracotta pots what we get back home, and all those things. The being part of it. That's what my other thing was. And after that, when I slowly grew up, and then I got when I was about to do hotel management in high school time, those are the days I was in Bangalore with my dad. My mom was she was working in South and in hometown, and I lived with my dad for some time because I was in Bangalore. So there he had his own house. I mean, he used to work for a little bit of an investigation. So he used to have a big house there. So that kitchen was all mine, and he was not, I mean, he doesn't cook every day. So I tried a lot of things. I still remember cooking caramel custard in a pressure cooker and all those things.
And if you don't mind me asking, I hope it's not rude. How young were you when you did that first time? You said you were in high school.
Yeah, post high school, before higher secondary, those times. Yeah.
I don't know many high school friends of mine that were cooking a caramel custard in their pressure cookers. I don't know many of them.
Keep in mind, today there must be a lot of people doing it.
They probably are. Yeah, today now they are. I went to a very different.
Yeah, exactly. Pre-Google, pre-YouTube days, that was exotic for sure.
Yeah.
Tell you, that was quite a maverick thing to do. You know, you don't do it normally. Yeah, that's
And you
true.
don't, and it takes a very interesting mind to actually be able to adapt. And talking about adaptation, I'm sure you would recall that, I mean, since it happened with you, I remember that in an interview you said that you were so fascinated by the caramel custard, and owing to the fact that you didn't have vanilla, you replaced it with cardamom.
Yeah.
You were creative enough right from the beginning.
No, that's because that's basically a situation makes you creative. You know, you don't have anything. What do? Obviously, I can't put a chili powder, so I was thinking around. This must be the best.
Cardamom must be a good alternative. All right, so you know, as destiny would have it, you were bound. I think you were bound to become a chef, but actually, it didn't happen all that quick. I also learned that you were actually about to become an engineer. You were about to be an engineer, and I was telling our viewers that what a loss we would have had. I mean, a great gain for engineering,
No, no.
but it must have been a great loss for us as chefs.
The stories, I'll keep that very short. It's quite an embarrassing thing, so I'll keep that very short. So I don't want to go too detailed into it, but definitely I can tell you for sure. My mom was extremely disappointed for longest time. Me not being, first of all, she was disappointed I didn't get into IIT or any of those good schools. Second thing, she decided I never pursued the career, and it took a long time and a lot of accolades to actually convince her back, saying that okay, this works too.
This works too, and to be fair, and in all modesty, it's worked out pretty well. So now, how do they respond? I mean, the time that you got your 2 Michelin star, what was their response like? Did they say decision well made?
I don't think my mom or dad understood at that point until they saw some articles here and there by Veer Sangvi and the likes back home. I was very fortunate to have some good friends in press. So until then, they didn't realize. They thought this must be something like a pay raise or something. He probably got a decent pay raise or something of that sort. So it took me some time to explain to them, but they were very delighted. They're very happy about it.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, you're the pride of the country. We're so proud of you. So listen, I have to ask. I meet a lot of students in my line of work. I meet a lot of students, a lot of parents, and the first question is, if not the first, at least the second. You know, this industry generally compromises a lot on personal time, work-life balances. What are your views on that? I mean, do you agree strongly? Do you disagree, or do you think it's a very personal thing? It's how you take it.
I don't want to mince words here. So I'll tell you honestly, if you ask me if there is a perfect work-life balance in this industry, to begin with, no. But as you go further, yes, you will figure it out. And plus, also, it's very important to understand, to realize that, I mean, sorry, to figure out. My advice always is to don't just get into a job, get into a place because it's your job. You know, first couple of years, I would just, at least first year, I would just go around and figure it out and find a comfortable place, and that decides everything. And at that point, you should be able to figure out whom to work for, which company to work for, which person to work for. Those are important steps you should take early in your career. And don't get stuck because you have to get stuck. Figure it out. I mean, when you're young and you have not much of liabilities, you should be able to take that risk of saying that, okay, this is where I want to work. No, this is not where I want to work. These are not 1990s or early 2000 when I started working. Now you have choice. You don't have to stick to Oberoi's or Taj. You can go beyond. You can go to restaurants. You can go to, so that's one important thing, to figure out where to join and whom to work for. If you don't feel this is the right employer or this is the right person to work for, don't work for. Figure it out. I mean, when it comes back to work-life balance, these things will decide work-life balance. If he is calling you in the middle of the night, not fair. Don't take it. You know, I mean, you don't have to. I mean, of course, occasionally, it's a different thing once in a while. But that's the kind of that's the kind of behavior they involved in, then keep yourself away from them. So that's one thing you have to figure out. Yes, work-life balance is a problem to begin with, but and then again, if you really want a proper work-life balance, I mean, I don't recommend completely choosing this. Then even if you choose this, even if you choose this, you can go into academics, you can go to trainings, you can go into what is it called? Canteens, where in US, I don't know about India now, it must have changed. Places like Facebook and Google and all those places pay really well. They have canteens, but they're like restaurants. You become chef there. There you can do a 9 to 6 work 5 days. So again, you have to, there is always some pain to gain some things, you know. It's going to be there. I went through a lot.
Would you agree? I mean, I think so, that this is the case almost in every industry. People have generally just, you know, made it a hospitality thing. But honestly speaking, I'd say it's across the board, wouldn't you? I mean, be it engineering or if you were, let's say, in medicine.
I was about to say that, okay, but I didn't want to just keep on talking because it looks like I am over talking here. So that's true. That's very true, because I know engineers in my family. My family is full of engineers and doctors. I know the family, they work almost as much as I do or more. And we get pointed out for that. I don't know why. I mean, you work too much. Oh, are you a chef? You must be working your butt off. I mean, no. I mean, we all work. You work too. You left yesterday morning at 7 o'clock and came back at 9 in the night. What kind of balance?
Does it get to a point where you start feeling guilty? Am I working too much? Is it bad?
You see, if I was 10 years younger now, I would have felt it. Now I have no choice because I have other things going on. I have responsibilities. I have my own restaurants and all those things. So that keeps me, I don't have time to think so much about it. But yes, it is hard work. I mean, it is hard work, yeah.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. All right, so chef, talking about your early journey, I read in an article that you started out as a Western chef. You were specializing in Western food, and slowly you changed over to Indian food. You found your love for Indian cuisine. Now, tell us about that journey. What made you shift? I mean, I'm sure you must have done very well there also, but what was it about Indian food that really drew you to it? Besides the fact that it's in your DNA, and of course you grew up with it.
No, I think it's also Western food was always for me. There are two things it did to me. One is it was a stepping stone for me into getting a place to work. In those days where you have no choice, you have to work for hotel companies. You can't work for restaurants. You can't afford to open your own restaurants like today. So you get in hotels. So when you go into hotels, you don't have a choice. You're like a junior artist in Hollywood, in Bollywood, or whatever it is. You don't have a choice. They give you what you give you, and just boom, you just get in. The first job I got was in Western, so I continued. I found it fascinating, but even before that, I used to read a lot about Western. I used to spend a lot of time in library. I used to read whatever. I mean, those days books were expensive. I didn't have enough money to buy so much books. Amazon is something which I could not afford. That's the only option to do. So Googles were not. It wasn't there that much. I mean, it was probably existed, but even not savvy. Internets were not there. I had to go to Internet Parlor to get some. This. I mean, it's a whole different mess.
It was a different time, I think. Absolutely.
But definitely the plus point there is the positive side is I had more friends than today. That's different. Going back to your question, I keep talking too much and I forget the question sometimes.
About your shift from Western cuisine to Indian food.
Yeah, I remember that. So because of the first job, decided a lot of stuff for me. So even internship and the first job decided a lot of stuff for me. But I always knew. But the second part of it was the Western cuisine also taught me how to be a little more disciplined. The Western cuisine has a character of being disciplined. If you ask me what is tastier, my palate, Indian food is much more tastier, for sure, because I'm Indian, obviously, there's no question about it. So it taught me a lot of discipline. So that is the one good thing about it. And from there, as I grew up, I realized that, as I was growing up, I realized that I obviously cannot be an Indian and sell Western cuisine. It's like you can't really do that, because the credibility factor, there'll be one at least one point missing all the time when you try to do sell Western cuisine, especially outside India, being an Indian. So you got to figure a way out. That's one basic thing. If I had a choice to do it, I would do it the other way around. I'll go to Indian. I learn Western simultaneously or after that. But it's fine. I mean, I was fortunate I could figure it out. But yes, I moved on quickly, and that I have both the tricks in my hand. So it's good.
Yeah, because a lot of people are going to be making career choices. You know, after listening to this, a lot of our students who've tuned in, it's a big dilemma when we're graduating from our institute, or any institute for that matter. We teach classical French cuisine in our institute in the first year, as I mentioned to you last week in our call. It's all standardized. It's the same classical recipes from the book. And in the second year is when we expose them to global cuisines. Now, I've seen a major paradigm shift in people choosing Indian food. And I think a lot of credit, I must say, is thanks to people like yourselves who've made Indian food more popular as well. They celebrated it. You all have celebrated Indian food very, very well, which I think was the need of the hour. Be it in India, we see a lot of restaurants in metropolitan cities like Delhi. You see a lot of restaurants in New York, in London, everywhere where Indian food is becoming no longer the street side takeaway food, which you would get for $5. Now it's probably one of the most expensive cuisines. Am I right?
It is extremely emotional for me to see that when you use the word celebrated. That's a word. You know, that is the word. So I must say, I get really, what is it called? You know, it just hits me very hard, because that's one thing we did not have 15. Quite a problem. You know why? Because Indians, we have amazing food. We know to cook amazing food, but the only thing we did not do was celebration. We did not give that exaggeration side of it. I'm not literally saying exaggeration, but you have to speak for yourself.
You have to be proud about it. You have to be proud about it.
Exactly. I mean, that comes from being proud. Yes. So people like the likes of Vineet Bhatia and Atul Kochar and people who went much before me into Western world, they did a good job putting down the thing. In America, it wasn't there. Floyd Cardo's chef was there. Unfortunately, we lost him now. He came in. I mean, of course, he was gutsy enough to come into New York and do something like that. He did tabla then, and not many people, you know, and it took a very long time to put down a few things and say that, hey, listen, this is not your delivery khana wherein you just put your curry in a bowl and just take it. This is not just for something on your off days or once in a while, a bowl of curry. No, Indian food is much beyond that. We could do a lot of things, and the problem is the frill part, the show off part was not there. We just had to put some belt and ties to the whole cuisine, which is important because the packaging is extremely important at this point.
Absolutely. And who better to describe that than yourself? Because I went on and on about the dishes. I've absolutely gorged over the dishes, the recipes, the descriptions. So before I can't help myself to ask, one of your most celebrated dishes is the dahi puri. Is the char papri that you do at your restaurant. And it cracks me up when I read the article where there was fog to come out of and tell us about that, because I don't think I'd be able to do justice to that dish.
It's funny, there's one person who asked me, a good friend of mine, I think from Delhi, a long time asked me, what the hell made a South Indian make a dahi puri? Where the hell do you get dahi puri? I said, I am South Indian, but I'm from India.
You are from India.
It's a funny one. Anyway, so I mean that's again one of those things wherein I mean that's a very special dish. It's not. I mean, if you ask me, is that the best dish ever made? No, never. Is that the best thing I made? Never. But that has a lot of story. It's very important story too, because there was one moment which that's one dish which I used to bring together East and West, East and California. So basically, India and California together in one plate, which is not. I mean, a lot of us, when we're young, we do a lot of dumb things wherein we just try to make things look good. I mean, those days are gone. You don't try to make things just look good. It's all good. Looking good is important, but it has to make sense on the plate. You don't have to put 25 things on the plate. You could do 4 and get away, and make it. So similarly, this dish, I'm not saying this is less complicated, but there was an idea which this dish was built on. It's a very simple idea, wherein you take the basic stuff from back home, what you enjoyed eating, and then you put it in a West Side that feels like California, or sorry, San Francisco. California is much bigger. San Francisco is all about what is it called? It's unlike any part of US. California has a better weather. It has place where I live is very close to like 10 blocks or 5 blocks from Golden Gate Park here. It's one of the most celebrated parks in here. So you see a lot of fog, a lot of vegetation, a lot of trees. So the idea was to build a dish around that. It was an emotional dish. It also made my career. San Francisco took care of me so well. For the last 15 years I've been here, and so the city took care of me very, very well. So I had to make something to make the city proud. So one of those things to bring two dishes together and make sense on the plate. Yeah,
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. All right, so Chef, my question here is, has a 2 Michelin star, we were talking about perceptions, we were talking about how Indian cuisine has finally started getting celebrated. Now, in your own view, has a 2 Michelin star had any significant change on how Indian food is perceived? I mean, we discussed it, but if you could just throw some more light upon that. Because, I read in an article by the legendary writer, Mr. Veer Sanghi himself, wrote, the problem with Michelin is it judges French food very well, but when it comes to Indian food, it is a major challenge amongst critics, whether it can distinguish. So how has the 2 Michelin star influenced Indian food in your view?
See, the perceive, like you said, perceive. So it's true, and the answer is in the question itself. The perception is one major problem. I would let me use the word problem, because perception is again everything, right? It's like saying beauty. I mean, what is beauty? It is in the beholder's eyes, right? It's not like perception is again in your mind. And so it's very difficult to answer that question. At the same time, your perception of something is not mine and mine is not yours. So it is a hard one to answer the question. But again, if you ask me to Michelin is again, it's a tag. It's not the sole authority, or it is not the ultimate authority to do anything. The 50 best is not the ultimate authority or sole authority. Is a 2 or 3 Michelin star restaurant the best? No. Is the 50 best #1 restaurant or whatever it is, a bar is best? No, there are much better one. The chefs who run that place can tell you that's not the best. That's probably one of the best. Probably they are doing a good job. That's not the best. Rene Redzepi himself said, are we the best? Not at all. But does it help? Yeah, totally.
Yes.
It keeps the restaurant afloat. It makes some profit for you. It does the PR, free PR for you without investing a buck on it. All those things it does. So if you ask me if the 2-star Michelin has done anything to it, to the cuisine, yeah, definitely. Didn't 50 best do anything for the Indian cuisine? It did. So all these accolades does something to it, and we all know what that something is. I mean, to be honest, none of these things. The world is never fair. I mean, if you ask me, is there anybody else in India deserve 2, 3 Michelins? There must be like so many. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, if you ask me, would it be possible for me to be back home in my village and attain this? Maybe not. I mean, you have to take that a few steps right or left or far, but so it's a different ballgame. So these questions have too many answers, and we probably need like 10.
It's very subjective as well. It's very subjective.
Very subjective. It's extremely subjective, and it does. If you, the question is if it did anything substantial to this cuisine, yes, it did. It put it out there, and it made people pay $300 for a meal. And they paid and just walk away without without making much of noise. Why? I mean, before $9.99 was the best thing you could pay for a curry, but now it's not the case. So has it done anything? It has done.
Of course, it has. Well, we thank you for doing that and playing a part in making that possible.
No, it's not me. It's not me. I'm just a small, very, very small element. I'm still trying. I'm still learning. I'm still coping up with what's going on around us. So I do not, I cannot take 1% of the pride of this. But of course, I'll be also be part of this big change with a bunch of people who are doing this. So many talented people outside India and in there's so many. I can't. That's very important to understand that. Yeah, I cannot.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Chef, tell us something. I mean, when you started your career, who would have thought? I mean, I obviously you probably had your eye on the prize, but tell us, was there any one advice early in your career that absolutely changed it, that you would consider life altering?
Change.
Well, any advice from be it a mentor or a chef, anyone back in school?
Advice. I mean, I don't think. I mean, you're asking me, right? If any of the advice someone gave
That you received, yes.
Yeah, but I can't remember one advice anybody gave me. I mean, I can't remember so many things people said in those days. It was we never had people. Of course, a lot of people said that learn your basics, get your stock together, get your sauces together. All those things are amazing, but the high level advice, I always wish that I had got it. Like today, I advise a lot of younger folks to do this. Hey, do this. Those kind of advices were not available. And number one, because we did not have these access to knowledge. Today we have access to the world library online. Those days we never had that access to it. And the funniest part is people above us, people older to us, also did not have. All they had was what's happening around you. One or two people in your association have that kind of thing. You don't get even to talk to them when you're growing up. It's hard. Professionally, no, but personally, it's a different story. We can talk about it all day. But not a lot of advice. Basic advice is like, hey, you need to learn these sauces. You need to learn these things. You need to go here. I mean, I always wish that. I always think about it and say that, shoot, I wish I got that advice a little early in the stage, kind of a thing. So that answer is kind of, it's a non-answer. I know that. I did not give you a good answer for that. I really don't.
All right. That's all right. But I'm sure somewhere inside something stuck on, and which is what all adds up.
Probably.
So on a lighter note, if it wasn't cooking, what would you be doing? What do you see yourself doing if it wasn't cooking?
Stand-up comedian.
Stand-up comedian? Really?
Probably a failed one.
So is that a bit of a hobby on the side? I mean, are we allowed to reveal that to everyone?
No, this is...
Is there an bias on YouTube that we don't know about?
I don't have anything. So one thing I will say, I mean, I might be a failed. I would have been a failed stand-up comedian for sure. But one thing I'll say, I really want to, before at some point in my life, I'm writing down a few things I haven't told anyone outside my friend circle. This I'm telling you. I definitely note down things, what's happening in our kitchens as well as outside. And I really want to write a very small book, maybe like a 50 pages of jokes in kitchen, mostly in my professional life jokes. I have a bunch of it jotted down.
Wow.
I really want to do that at some point. It's,
well, the platform is all yours. If you want to give one out, we're all yours.
I can give you one. I mean, I don't know how much it would. The thing, it's a very serious joke. I can tell you one. I remember cooking in Maldives. I was in the morning. I was very young, in early 20s. I was actually watching breakfast. I was like a sous chef kind of a thing, something similar. Yeah, and I had a boy. Maldives, as you know, it's not known for its vegetables and stuff like that. It all comes from outside. I still remember a day where in early morning, one of the servers comes running to the kitchen saying that, "Hey, chef, what's this avocado?" So the guest is asking for it in his omelet. I said, I was a funny guy too. I mean, I was a little bit of a jerk. So I said that, avocado, you don't know that? It's a seafood. It's allergic to... he said that, oh, I know that. Let me just go here back to the restaurant. I said, dude, come back.
Knowing a chef, you would never say no. He'd say, yeah, I know that bit.
No, so the
Oh,
whole
God.
I wouldn't have done justice explaining that, but it is I couldn't stop laughing. I still remember. I mean, I can still make my friends and colleagues who were there laugh their life off thinking about the same thing. It is it's not a made up joke. It actually happened.
It
So
actually happened. No, I
I've
think
made,
it's important for in this industry, while we were talking about work-life balance, I think one of the most essential, and tell me if I'm wrong, the most essential things is to have a sense of humor to survive. You've got to have a sense of humor.
true. And I have many. I'm thinking about a couple and I'm just laughing myself. I mean, we'll talk about it on a different.
Absolutely. That will be another session altogether. I can see it already. So tell us, on a slightly serious note, who is your culinary role model? I mean, I'm sure you've had one or more than one, but if it was one culinary role model, who would it be?
So it changed as I grew up a lot.
Understandably, sure.
To begin with, I didn't have anybody nameable or substantial, but I must say the biggest role model when I was growing up was in early, growing in this industry, early 2000, very late 90s. So I always had this thing, even though I still remember French Laundry Cookbook coming out. And I think it was, if I've not mistaken, it's 1999. French Laundry Cookbook came out. I definitely could not afford that because I was just out of school, so I definitely could not afford that. I didn't have enough money, and I didn't even know if it came to India at that point. I think I saw someone came from abroad carrying that book, and I had eye on that book for a long time, and I bought it. I must say there are two things which is. Two books. One is French Laundry Cookbook. The other one was when I moved to Maldives to work, I saw this book called White Heat by Marco Pierre White. Those two books, I just saw the presentation. I mean, today I may laugh at it, looking at it, but definitely the presentation of those days, wow, this is just mind-boggling. What kind of stuff is he using? I mean, those things really. So it's kind of a virtual role models. Thomas Keller, Marco Pierre White, and all those people. Because again, I'm almost sure I worked with a bunch of amazingly talented people, better than Keller and Marco Pierre White. They never told me they are good. You know, you're coming back to the point where nobody celebrates their talent or the cuisine. It's the same problem here. I probably worked on good people, but they never told me, or I never found them out. So what I found out was people, when they expressed on piece of paper, or when they express online, or when they expressed in, that's when you find out, this is my role model. There must be a lot of people thinking, why the hell is he? Does he have only a bunch of white people as his role model? No. The question is, the question is, you never told me you're good. You never showed me you're good. You're probably good. You know what I mean? It's the same problem.
Right.
That's why I have this role. I just want to clarify that because I know a lot of my friends tell me, why is that only Americans and Westerners are your role model? There is a reason for it. I'm sorry.
Well, I couldn't agree more. So talking about chefs, and I'm going to go off the limb here and ask you this question outright. One person or one chef that if you could work with in the kitchen just for one day, who would it be? I think you've given the answer, but still, let's have it. One chef anywhere from the world, if you could work with for one day, whether it be from India or outside.
You know, there are. I mean, I must say it's so hard to say that, but there are so many people I would love to work with. But I'll definitely go back to someone whom I really love. I mean, I could do two, but definitely I would go back. I would have Thomas Keller from French Laundry for sure. I feel another person whom I'm very fascinated, whom we are also very good friends with. I'm also very good friends with this Daniel Hum. He's Daniel Hum from 11 Madison Park in New York, who was actually my predecessor at Campton Place. In 2005, he was the executive chef there.
Really?
Yeah, he moved on. That's one of the reasons why I was super excited when I got this opportunity to work in San Francisco, in this place, in this very place. So, he moved on from there and we went to New York, and he opened Learn Madison Park and turned out being a world number one. So all those things, that's not the reason why I'm fascinated, because he's world number one. No, nothing of that sort. He doesn't even have a restaurant now because of this corona, and he's actually closing it up. But he, as a human being, as a chef, he's an amazing person too. I mean, he's a great professional person, and we go a long way. We've done his book launch in our restaurant before, and all those things. So he's a great human being. Yep.
Wonderful. All right. So, Chef, our last question for the evening. For our students and everyone else who's out there, in your own words, what does it take to get a Michelin star? What are the 3 things or 5 things that one must keep practicing or doing to work towards it? Because I know we're a community filled with people who, of course, aspire for it. It's the acme of all recognitions.
I think be true to what you're doing. Be true to. I mean, this might sound like a super cliche, but honestly, these are like these are basics. This cannot change. I mean, there are so many specifics which comes into play as you start and as you do. But if you ask me basics, those, be true to what you're doing and do it right, do it well. And second thing is consistency. And I would just move the consistency to first, because consistency is extremely important, so important. And to top up these 2 things, I would say stand out. I don't want to give any formula to stand out. There has to be a way you as a human being have to figure out the way to stand out. And that stand out does not have a blanket formula. The standout has to be based on where you are, what you have around. What are you looking at? Which place are you on? What are you using it? Everything has to be brought together in one pack and then figure out how to stand out. It's not that standing out in India versus standing out in San Francisco is same. No, it's not. It's different places, different standout. The way you have to figure out a way. This one thing does not have a formula. It's extremely difficult to say that. But yeah, 3 things. One is being true to what you do, and obviously consistency, and stand out. Those things are extremely important to in that level. I have seen both sides of it. I have gained it. I've gained twice. I lost it once and I gained it back. So I've done a bunch of things in it. So I'm definitely, I can tell you how easy you could lose things, and then how hard is it to get it back? How much more you have to work hard to get it back. So,
couldn't agree more, Chef. Well, I mean, from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of everyone that's here, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for such a fantastic session.
No, thank you.
It has been such a pleasure and an honor to host you. I mean, honestly, this entire week of conversing with you, of interacting with you, has been such a great learning for myself. And all of us over here at IICA really applaud everything that you're doing. More strength to you. Lots and lots of best wishes to everyone back home. And we hope that very soon we can host you and see you in person at our institute in New Delhi, and give you all the very best wishes for everything ahead.
And keep doing the good work you all are doing. It's amazing. It's extremely important to help the budding chefs, because that's the most important piece of the future of this art cuisine, as well as this fraternity. So it's
Absolutely.
So important. Thank you so much for all the good work.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you, and have a lovely day, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Today's session has been absolutely brilliant. Wait till see you next time. Thank you.
My name is Ashima Arora and I'm from Amritsar.